next question is in education. The recent passing of the DREAM Act will have an impact on state and local municipalities. Do you support the DREAM Act? Representative Loebsack.
Sure, thank you. Here's my take on that. My stepson is a Marine, active duty Marine. He's been in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's been deployed. His wife, my daughter-in-law, is an active duty Marine. She's been deployed to Iraq. If there are folks who were brought to this country through no fault of their own from somewhere else and were brought illegally, and they served in the military, and they've been deployed with my stepson or with my daughter-in-law, and they've had their back in war, and they were willing to go abroad and defend not only this country, but what we stand for, then I think those folks have every right to stay here. I think they have every right to achieve an education because they paid the price. They paid the price, folks. That's what this is about. A broader immigration issue and a broader immigration policy. I understand some of the folks earlier tonight talked about that being a federal issue. It is a federal issue. We can't have 50 different state laws. It is an issue that Congress and the President have to deal with. We've got to make sure that we enforce our borders. We have to make sure that we crack down on employers who illegally employ immigrants who are here illegally. We've got to make sure that we do what we can to provide those employers with the tools so that they are able to do the right thing. And I voted for e-verification on a number of occasions, but we've got to make sure that we enforce the law as it is. But when it comes to the DREAM Act, when it comes to those young people who have come here, again, through no fault of their own, we've got to make sure what we do when we're cracking down on folks who shouldn't be here, we have to make sure that we crack down on the most hardened of criminals. We have very scarce resources available to us. We have to put those resources where it matters. I want to go back to the point on trade because it's a big issue, obviously. And John mentioned that I opposed President Obama, a Democrat, on that. To be quite honest, I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. If it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea. I didn't get elected by anybody except the people of the 2nd District. Those are the people I'm beholden to, those are the people I'm answerable to, and those are the people I'm going to listen to.
Thank you. Mr. Archer, the recent passing of the DREAM Act will have an impact on state as well as local municipalities. Do you support the DREAM Act?
And those people of the 2nd District are struggling with high unemployment because Congressman Loebsack once again voted against free trade. I agree with Congressman Loebsack that this is a broader immigration policy. We have the most dysfunctional Congress that we have ever had in America. And my opponent's part of the problem. He's been there for 6 years. In 2008, when President Obama was first elected, he had a supermajority in the Senate and a majority in the House. He could have passed any bill that he wanted, and yet we still have no federal immigration policy in the United States. It's time that we get serious about securing our borders. And this is one area, in my opinion, where the federal government has grossly underreached its authority. Securing our borders is a national security issue, and the federal government must act. We've had enough time to act. It's past time that we put partisan politics aside and deal with securing our borders. I do not support the DREAM Act as it is currently written today.
Thank you. The next topic will involve immigration. A recent Supreme Court decision struck down many of Arizona's Show Me Your Papers law as unfair and discriminatory. What is your opinion of this ruling? Representative Loebsack.
I think I answered that already. We can't have 50 different state laws when it comes to immigration. This is an issue that, and John, I agree, this is an incredibly dysfunctional Congress. I'm glad that we do agree on that. I'm there every day. I see the problems. I know how this works. Basic problem we have in Congress right now is that we've got the partisan divide. You know, we're going to have our disagreements, not just because we're Democrats and Republicans, but because we differ on the issues. They're honest disagreements. But the fact of the matter is, whether it's immigration or anything else, what we've got to do once this election is over, and I'd prefer to do it today instead of waiting until the election's over. I want to do it before I was sent back by John Boehner, before Congress was sent back at the beginning of August. I wanted to deal with the Farm Bill, and I tried to lead the way on that. but John Boehner decided he was going to send us all back for Congress back for the August break, or when Congress was sent back to do the campaigning that we're now doing. We should have been dealing with all these issues. But what we've got is a situation where, really, quite frankly, leaderships on both sides of the aisle, they have their political arms up and they're not willing to sit down and talk with one another. This isn't just on immigration, it's on just about everything facing this country at the moment. I've tried the best I can, and I think I've done a very good job of establishing relationships across the aisle and taking advantage of those relationships, not only when I was in the majority for 4 years, but since I've been in the minority as well. I've been able to get through a number of pieces of legislation that have to do with our veterans, that have to do with education, that have to do with the Rock Island Arsenal, a number of things. But that's because I've been willing to work with the other side. It's because I've been willing to put down my partisan arms, if you will, listen to the other side in the hopes that they'll listen to me, and I think I've been pretty successful at that. So that's what I plan to do going forward, whether it's on immigration or anything else.
Thank you. Mr. Archer?
And likewise, I think we've touched upon this, this fourth question previously, but drawing on my experience from John Deere the last 12 years, and specifically the last 3 years, negotiating global supply agreements for John Deere. You know, when two parties enter into negotiations, they know that at the end of the day, they must come to an agreement for the betterment of both parties. John Deere's not going to get 100% of what they want when they enter into contractual negotiations. The supplier's not going to get 100% of what they want. So we have to put the partisan politics aside, reach across the aisle, and move this country back to sound fiscal footing. I have a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. That's why I'm running for U.S. Congress, because I want them to have a stronger, more secure America than what we currently have today. Right now, we have more doubt, we have more debt, and we have more despair. We need real leadership in Washington, D.C. to get the job done.
All right. Well, we will have 1 minute for closing remarks for both of the gentlemen. Representative Loebsack, your closing remarks.
Well, first, thanks for having us here. I really appreciate this. The first of at least 4 of these that we're going to be doing, and I think the others will be a little lengthier than this. But I'm very happy to be here tonight. Just essentially, I'm running for one reason, and that's to make sure that that we do everything we can to protect the middle class. Make sure we do everything to get those who've fallen out of the middle class over the course of the past several years, not just the past few years, but really the past 2 to 3 decades. Do everything we can to get them back into the middle class. And then beyond that, and something that we really don't talk about a lot, but make sure we do everything we can for those who've never had the opportunity to be a part of the middle class. People like me, when I was growing up in poverty with a single-parent mom who struggled with mental illness, I really didn't think that I was ever going to get out of poverty when I was young, but I made a decision at a pretty early age that I was not going to live in poverty when I was an adult. And I made that decision in about the 4th grade, quite seriously. So I pulled myself up, but I couldn't have done it without the help of a lot of people. I couldn't have done it with a lot of friends and relatives and a lot of people out there in this country who've been very good to me, and my job is to make sure that I do everything I can to provide whatever opportunity I can for those who are struggling to get into the middle class and those who want to stay there. That's what this is about. That's how we're going to move this country forward, I think, in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time this evening. You know, the irony of any election is that the focus tends to be on those individuals that are running to represent you, the people. This election is not about me. This election is not about my opponent. This election is about you. And I'll make one promise to you tonight, that when I'm elected, I will represent you, your needs, and even your dreams in Washington, D.C. Now more than ever, with Iowa losing a congressional district, we need real leadership. We need individuals that have the solutions, that can work bipartisan across the aisle. And I have such knowledge to find those solutions. I have the courage and I have the skill set to push through those real solutions in ever-increasing bureaucracy. And I would appreciate your vote on November 6th. Thank you so much.